Do we have the roll call, please?
Mr. Nichols?
Here.
Mrs. Smith? Mrs. Dickerson?
Here.
Mr. Anderson?
Here.
Mr. Fike? Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Is there anybody here that would like to make a public comment at this time? Hi.
Hello, how you doing?
Good.
To the Planning Commission Board, as most of you I think know me as Donald Crenshaw, we're a builder and developer here in the city of Erie. I watched last month's planning meeting, and you guys had presented before you a possible development or the construction of some new houses for home ownership. The type of construction that was presented was modular construction, superior walls, cranes, what have you. I've been doing this for about 35 years now, and I think we're an expert when it comes to building affordable housing using this particular type of methodology. And with the things that's going on and the challenges of Erie, especially when it comes to budgets and overall plans, I would like to see Erie more inclusive of myself. We are proven builder developer, over 100 and something modular units. We built one of the few affordable housing projects where homeowners paid 50% of the development cost and they owned the homes. The idea of building up Erie is a great thing. I love the fact that it was presented by someone other than me to the point of the cost of new construction. I think those numbers were excess of 300,000. Development costs could easily exceed 400,000. And when you're talking low to moderate income housing, the question becomes, how do you do that? We were able to do it about 18 years ago. Development cost was about $140,000 per unit. We sold the units to the individuals for $70,000. There's nothing been repeated, similar, nothing like it. But as a developer and a builder, we would like to be able to present to the city of Erie more of this concept, building affordable housing. And a lot of those that sit around the table today are also part of the blighted property and the demo that goes along in Erie. When we look at a $300,000+ new construction by their numbers, and we know that we can build and renovate for probably 150, max 200, just about anything in Erie. So when you talk about renovating compared to demolishing, and you weigh the two, when you start off with $40,000 of lumber, $20,000 of sewer and water, $15,000 of basement, every time we demolish a structure, that's what you take away. So I just want to publicly state, and there's been some change, our thinking of demolishing everything when we know a new development cost has been presented by those that are surrounding of excess of $300,000, we got to ask ourselves, what is the best way to build our city back? Is it to continue demolishing? And I gave you some rough numbers of what's there when you tear down. Heck, look what Mr. Hagan did. He took a whole house and moved it. Wasn't cheap, but he saved the house. There is a lot we can do from a preservation standpoint. I have a project right now, 26th and Downing. I'm renovating 15 houses. 2 inches of foam on the outside, new roofs, new siding, new furnaces. We're renovating these houses for energy efficiency. This project has 11 new constructed houses is what was presented last month. Modular construction. There's 8 2-stories and there's 3 88 livable units that's all going under construction right now. This 26-unit project, I arm wrestled with the prior administration for 5 years. The project was funded by PHFA, but it took that long before we were allowed to build it. We are building it. With the challenges that I have as a builder developer, build over 200 houses of affordable in this city, we should have a much better working relationship than what we have. But I would like the fact that it was being said by some of the same challenges I have here in the room, that cost of building new houses aren't cheap. I don't have to say that now, it was stated, it's record. New construction is not cheap. Housing is needed. Renovation is a lot less expensive. It's not cheap either. But I wanted to come before you all today to say, I continue, after 35 plus years of an affordable housing developer. I think it was mentioned there's not a lot of other people out here doing it, but we've been doing it that long. We're building houses. We have a training program where I have several youth, and maybe a little bit older than a youth, young adults, I'll say, minorities, that are being trained while we build. With this being said, I asked the Planning Commission, and I asked all those that's involved, the Redevelopment Authority, Aaron Snipper, and any and all others, let us be an asset to build our community, to rebuild Erie. It's needed. We're in a deficit. My track record speaks for itself. We've built over 200 homes. 25 of them were for low to moderate income families. Another 150 are for rental low to moderate income families. Who better in this city has the track record that we have, but am I getting invited to the table to get input? I just wanted to remind everybody, we're still here. You haven't seen me in the last few months in the meetings because workforce and actual individuals, there's a shortage in Erie right now. Union laborers, there's none out there to do some of the things we need to do. We have some that's working for us. Union plumbers, I got the one that just came on the list who's out there working for me. There's not a lot of those. There was none doing residential plumbing contracts that were available. Union operators, there wasn't any when I started the project. Correction, there was one. We worked with them. So at the end of the day, and let me add one more, mechanical, sheet metal, union workers, there aren't any right now. We did the entire heating for the Erie Insurance Arena and the EMTA bus station with union mechanical sheet metal workers. There's a shortage in all of the trades. But the one thing that I'm trying to do as we build affordable housing is enter into pre-apprenticeship programs where we take young individuals, give them the exposure to the operators, the union laborers, the carpenters, the mechanics, sheet metal workers, the plumbers. But if we don't have jobs that we can train these individuals on, if we don't have opportunities, and I'm not talking a 5-year delay when I put something forward, get it funded, that locally it takes me 5 years to get it approved local, that's too long. We can't wait another 5 years. So I just want to share with everybody publicly and openly, I'm here, my expertise is available, and I welcome all of you to come out to the project. We'll show you what the modular construction that we're doing, which aren't out of Pittsburgh, they're not local modular units, but I would love to share with you, and I've worked with a dozen different modular companies. The Superior Walls, they are local, they do a good job, and the cranes that we use to set, some of them have been local, some of them have been out of Ohio, but at the end of the day, you've already heard that was presented by the Redevelopment Authority, the concept. I've been doing it for 25 years. There's a lot of projects that have that concept. I welcome you to come out, let's talk, let's see how we can maybe reduce that development cost, but it is very expensive, and I thank you all for your time. Is there any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Crenshaw. Yes, I'm sure we all have questions, and I think it would be great if the board could schedule a meeting to view his project out there, because our resources in the land bank are slender, and we can learn something from somebody who's out doing it on their own. And and it's great that you're got this project underway, and it's a misfortune it took 5 years to start it. Every month at our school board meetings, Gary Horton is always hammering on, we need to have a more diverse workforce with the unions and such. And it sounds like you're getting us to a place where you're training some young individuals that would be able to pursue that. It's important to the future of the community. But thank you for your presentation. Any
Thank
other
you.
questions?
Anyone else?
I did stop by to see, and you're doing a very good job.
Thank you very much. And the one thing I ask as I leave, as a private individual who pays taxes, and I support the municipalities, the one question I ask is, why should I compete as a private individual with municipalities versus partner and leverage? And when we built our home ownership program, we used Act 127, we used home, we used CDBG, we used a multitude of different funding to make that happen. I welcome that to all the parties that are trying to develop and build in the city, that I will share and work with anything that I've learned in the past to make our community a better community. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I have some comments. Mr. Crenshaw, you mentioned in your comments that you hope to be an asset to this community. And I want to make sure that you know that you are already an asset to this community. Not only do you and your family reside in the city of Erie as taxpayers, but most of the development that you've undertaken has been within the city of Erie limits. And for that, you deserve due credit and should be recognized. And I want to make sure that we make those comments today. I applaud you for the local talent that you are using and attempting to foster future benefit for them and for this community. And I think we've lost track to a certain extent of understanding that we do have the local talent here in this community to achieve things. It seems these days that everybody is coming in from out of town to make this community better. And I'm not an isolationist. I think it's good that we have others come into this community and make an investment here. But we can't do that at the cost of overlooking the talent that we already have. Because this community is in trouble. And if we continue to diminish in numbers, diminish in our younger talent pool, we're going to continue to be in trouble. But through the efforts of you and other people that are continuing to work in this community, going through all of the things that you had to undertake to get a project over the finish line after 5 years, you should be applauded for in this community. You mentioned that the project that you've just recently undertaking are modular homes in nature. Again, somebody that has local talent of doing that kind of work, I think that ought to be recognized. And I hope that the leaders of our community will continue to work with you and develop relationships. I know at times there's been strains on both sides of the equation with working together, but we can get past differences for the betterment of this community and continue to move forward. I know that you have always worked to do that and will continue to do that. So thank you for being here today and sharing your comments with us.
Thank you.
Man, good afternoon, everyone. Usually I like to just come and listen. I don't really comment during public commentary. I feel like I have that opportunity during our regular council meetings, but when I hear such compelling, comments, and I feel obligated to get up and say something, because it's not just 200 homes built, 150 low to moderate income, or the other 50 being sold or whatever, that's 200 families. And so, if I just look at them at units, I start, as a legislator, I just start counting beans or counting. But when I look at the human impact and where we're at as a city in terms of housing shortage or good quality, safe, affordable housing, then, and I do know some of the struggles Mr. Crenshaw has had with both the unions and the 5-year delay. I'm acutely aware of it. He's burnt the wax out my ears, calling my phone about it. As a county legislator, I wasn't in a position to do anything but be empathetic. But I am over here to serve now, and I would like to see this body. And I did sit through the presentation on the modulars on the 22nd Street thing, and I did see the exorbitant costs. And I am a union labor construction, so I'm acutely aware of some of that stuff. I know the labor shortages. I know some of the other labor challenges that black developers have in this city. So it's my hopes that as a legislator, as a partner and team member with you all and with my colleagues, that we'll be able to address some of the stuff that would make a project like that that's already received funding wait for 5 years while we're in the middle of not just a problem or issue, but a crisis. And I just want to say that anything that I can do as a legislator, as a liaison, please inform me. I'm new to the city and I'm learning. Aaron has offered time and time again. My schedule just don't allow for me to I really need to make a more concerted effort to carve out that type of time. So I do have the luxury of Mike Lavery in our office, who kind of comes from this venue, from a code inspector standpoint of view, and he's kind of helping me understand some things and how it all intersects, or the relationality of it, whether it's land bank or blighted property, which I am a voting member of. But I know that we can do better. I know that this particular body is in a position where we're not in a position where we can turn down partnerships of people. We don't have the luxury of picking and choosing, especially when our picking and choosing usually results in us going outside of the city. And I echo Mr. Anderson's comments too. Mr. Crenshaw, you are a valued member. I can't even begin to quantify just the amount of dollars that you brought into our community and that you give back and that you do live in the community. And so I'm supportive of any partnerships or anything that you can do to further that relationship amongst someone who's been doing it for 35 years, a proven track record. And yeah, all developers have issues. I'm willing to wade through some of that stuff too. But I just felt like I needed to get up and say that to you and to be supportive of Mr. Crenshaw and any other developers that would lend itself to alleviating some of this crisis for us. So thank you.
Thank you, Andre. Does anybody else desire to make public comment at this time?
Good afternoon, Kathy Schaff, citizen of Erie. I also affirm Mr. Crenshaw's work, but this question goes to you. Does the Erie School District still have a tech program? Years ago, I believe my family friends, Mr. Ed Rakowski, taught at Tech in the building and construction, and he used to build medium-size, small to medium ranches on Bird Drive. He did one in 1958 and a few down from like 38th and Bird Drive, going down Bird Drive. And my father and my uncle built their own house. My dad was a cop, but he just had a desire to do it. And I know things are different with the cost-wise, but I like so much that idea of people in high school learning about this. My father and my uncle were both in their 20s when they built their house. So if there's that desire and they're learning in the classroom, you know, that carries forward. And I was just wondering if there, I don't know, unfortunately, I don't have that, I didn't ask anyone, but it just came to me just now. Do they have a construction trade?
Yes, they do. Approximately
you.
half the students at Erie High are in vocational training, called CTE these days. I'm the liaison to that part of the school system as well, so I've learned a lot about that in recent years. And they have been working, there's about 50 or 60 that are in the construction trades. They have been building a tiny home, unlike the effort by the county that failed. They're building a tiny home up at Erie High, which they've had great support from the local unions and contractors coming in and assisting the students with completing it. And it's actually going to be placed on a foundation somewhere here in Erie and will be put to use. But I agree with you that those students could be utilized to some degree to assist with this housing replacement because it's so expensive. We just don't have the ability to do it all, do much at all really with what new construction costs are. But so we have this kind of pilot program with this tiny home, but I would like for them to try something larger at some point, you know, under direction of, you know, skilled trade, local people. And it would be great if they could be used to further their education and you know, further the redevelopment of the city.
Thank you. I know, like back in the 70s, my friend worked at I. Michael Brown, and that was like her concentration. So a couple days a week she worked there and then went to school, you know, for that type of thing. So I was just wondering if they still had the construction. Thank you.
Yes, and what's interesting, of approximately 900 some students that are in the program, there's over 100 that come over from collegiate for it. There's a real demand for that type of training, you know, the practical training. We even added a school teacher component last year, so it's a very important part of Erie High, a very successful part of Erie High that you never hear about. You hear about when things go badly up there, but it's a strong program at Erie High.
Thank you. Thank you.
Nice to have public participation. Do we have any other public comments? Okay, we'll move on to approval of the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The next is approval of the minutes from our June 15th meeting. We didn't meet in July. Can I have a motion on that? I'd be overworking you two.
So moved.
I'll second, even though, Mr. Chairman, I will add that I did not attend last month's meeting.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
On to the finance report.
Okay, so in your packet, the first page there is the balance sheet. As of July 31st, the Erie Land Bank had total assets of a little over $811,000, including $681,000 in cash. The cash balance includes the $300,000 in fair funding that remains deferred until related expenditures are incurred. We had approximately $47,000 in accounts payable at month end, and overall equity position remains strong at approximately $449,000. On your next page, the profit and loss. Through July, we had about $186,000 in revenue, the majority of which is grant reimbursement revenue, along with $17,000 in property sales. The expenses are approximately $203,000, leaving us with a year-to-date loss of $19,600. The timing of our county land bank reimbursement is important when looking at that number because we did not submit a reimbursement request in July for June's expenditures. So June and July were combined and submitted for the August board meeting, which they will convene tomorrow morning. And that is not reflected in these financials right now. So the current loss is largely a timing difference between incurring program expenses and when the related reimbursement revenue is recognized. The following page is your budget versus actuals. We are showing here approximately 25% of annual budget revenue and 27% of expense budget through July. The grant reimbursement revenue is behind the annual budget, although that's partially timing related that we just discussed. We have a little over $48,000 to be presented in front of the Erie County Land Bank Board tomorrow morning. That's not included here. Most of our major project categories remain well under their annual budget as projects continue to move forward. And the main category that we are currently over budget for is the legal expenses, which we will continue to monitor. And then the last page in your packet is the check detail report, and those were the checks that were dispersed in the month of July. Any questions?
Anybody have any questions on the finance report?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we accept the finance report.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next on the agenda is the report of the executive director.
Good afternoon, Board. You have the August memorandum. And we are continuing to make progress. You'll see that itemize the documents that, the properties that are set for closing developer agreements that are pending. Then you'll see the next section. Those are properties that have closed with the accompanying closing dates. Again, we didn't meet in July, so I've included the end of June and throughout July and through this so far in August. So we are continuing to get these properties back onto the tax rolls and into the hands of the public of City of Erie. Quiet title actions, you'll see. I won't go through all of them, but these are again quiet title actions where we're making sure that the title is clear so that we can. Thank you. That we can then in turn market those properties. Again, with our purpose in mind of getting them back onto the tax rolls. So you'll see that we have quite a few that we are pushing through the system. And again, the Court of Common Pleas here in Erie County understands what we're doing and recognizes the importance of keeping these moving in a progressive fashion. So if you read through those, you'll see exactly where they stand and also, most importantly, the time frame. So with that, if you have any questions, by all means, I know this is a lot of information, but if there's ever a time where you have any questions or inquiries, my email address is there. So if there's any follow-up that you need to do after you've been able to take a look at this and digest something, by all means, reach out to me and I'll be able to circle right back to you. But we are making significant progress, again, with the help of Aaron and his team to keep these matters moving.
I have a question on the 223 Locust Street. Isn't that the property that we split into two lots?
Yes.
And this is one of the two lots, so we've got a possible sale on one of the two lots?
Yes.
Good.
Yeah, so back when it was put out before and it was marketed, the board approved development proposals to two individuals. In the process of the subdivision and filing that and getting that process so that we could identify the two parcel numbers. One of the developers had fallen through. He no longer was interested, but we are following through with the one developer to close on that property, and we are marketing the other parcel currently. at
And-
221 Locust Street.
And that developer plans to build a single-family residence on the property?
Yes.
Again, which is a great thing. It's going to be developed into a home. And I would suspect that once this is finalized, it may spur additional interest in 221.
I have a question. I see a lot of these properties have closed recently. Did they find these like on the website and put in their developer proposals? As far as the ones that closed recently, because I know that we were having the properties listed with the realtor, and then we were voting on the best development proposal moving forward.
Yeah, so right now, the majority of those properties that have closed were properties that were approved almost a year ago. They were unfortunately rushed to market before the title work had been completed by Gene and his team. So those developers have sat patiently waiting for us to complete, well, for Gene and his team to complete quiet title action so that we could convey them with clear warranty titles. So we're finally getting to that point where we're able to close on these development proposals that have, yeah, I think the one was almost a year ago.
It was.
That was signed. So those ones are finally coming to closing.
Okay. And do we have any coming up that will be listed with the realtor here recently? Or shortly?
Yes, and so as you can see on the agenda, there is the renewal of the agreement with Pennington Lines and Patrick Groner as the broker to renew that contract agreement with them. And I can certainly touch on some of those in my executive director report as well.
All right, thank you.
Any further questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Right.
Now, there's no other question. So yes, so to answer Ms. Dickerson's question, we are marketing. We did sign a sales agreement with Pennington Lines to market 2626 Pennsylvania. Currently, right now, we're seeking development proposals. And let me back up. So as we discussed with the board a couple months ago, probably 3 at this point, we obtained 16 properties off the 2025 judicial tax sale that was held in January. Those 16 properties that contain structures, there were 17 parcels, one was just a vacant parcel to join with our other parcels for future development. The 16 structures were evaluated based upon 3 levels of criteria. One being severely distressed to the point that they are not financially salvageable or feasible in any way. So those are stage 1 development. Those are working through getting out to demolition proposals. The second stage are severely distressed properties that may be appealing to developers that, and as kind of to extend on what was mentioned during public comment, there's value there. However, there's only value there if the properties are obtained at a reasonable price. And so with that, these properties are being marketed as quick claim type properties. They're offered out to developers. We've had 2406 Pennsylvania out since early July. Josh has shown the property on numerous occasions. We have yet to receive a development proposal on that property. So we're working with Mr. Easter and Mr. Groner at Pennington Lines to look through those properties. But so we identified out of that 16 properties, I believe there's 8 properties that were identified as stage 2. So essentially, we're marketing them to developers who have the capacity, experience, and wherewithal to redevelop those properties. And if there is not interest in those properties, they will move to demolition. So we're giving them their due diligence. We're exposing them to the public. We are not asking, the opening asking price of those properties is $3,000. That is essentially, at this point, what the Erie Land Bank has into those properties with acquisition through the tax sale and the associated legal work that Gene and his team have put into it. We're doing that because certainly we're not going to go through with quiet title action, which is another substantial expense to any future developer, until we, know what the outcome of those properties are. And so at this point, they're going to be sold, like I said, with quitclaim deeds. If the developer wanted quiet title action, we'll have to work through an agreement on that. But the purpose of it is to try to get those severely distressed properties exposed to the market and to developers, but knowing that there is substantial rehabilitation. The third one is stage 3. Those are properties that we feel are highly desirable redevelopment opportunities, such as 2626 Pennsylvania, which was one that was acquired at the 24 tax sale. We identified one property out of the 16, unfortunately, that is a stage 3. So Gene and his team are working through quiet title action. We're working through getting some proposals or some estimates on cleaning the contents out of that property so that then we can end up marketing it with Pennington Line. So those are how we look at our properties now, in a way to kind of, navigate that, what we hear a lot of times is that, why'd you demolish it? That property's salvageable. So we're, like I said, we're giving them their due diligence. So any questions with that?
We're marketing all these properties one by one, right? They're all listed separately, or?
They're coming online at kind of a casual pace. We don't certainly want to overwhelm the staff. Josh is one person currently, and we currently have 2 inspectors that we leverage out of the authority, but we're all, certainly at capacity as far as staff-wise. So they're coming online slowly. Currently, out of the stage 2 properties, there are 3 listed on the website right now for developer proposals. And so, like I said, 2406 has been on the website and available, and we've made social media posts, as we discussed last month at our board meeting, about trying to get those out to the public. We're going to give it until about the end of August for 2406 Pennsylvania, and at which time, if we don't receive a viable development proposal, we'll put it out for a demolition bid.
Why do you think we haven't got any development proposals on it?
In my opinion, it's because developers, we've had interested developers who have said they want to give us the money and us to sign the deed over to them with no development restrictions whatsoever. The catching point seems to be the need to follow all city ordinances, permitting requirements, and all of that needs to happen to redevelop a property legally within the city of Erie. We have a lot of developers who want to take a property and do the electrical and plumbing themselves. And as a city authority, that is not where we step in. We want to make sure that these properties are developed in accordance with all of those regulations, that they're using licensed plumbers and licensed electricians and licensed mechanicals. So that's where the development proposal comes in. And we want to make sure that certainly they're rehabilitated to the highest standard possible, that they're quality rental housing or quality home ownership opportunities when they are completed.
You indicated before that on the vacant lots we have, that you're trying to accumulate a tract that would be something we could market potentially to a developer, where you had 10 or 20 lots that are fairly close to one another. How's that coming along?
I would say extremely well. So certainly, as was mentioned during public comment, we have a large section of land up in the central city area. Of course, the majority of that is redevelopment authority land, but the land bank does have a few properties of recent acquirement through the judicial tax sale. But there are other areas. The parcel that was acquired off the judicial tax sale this year is at 23rd and East Avenue. Currently, the land bank holds 3 parcels at that corner, which is, a decent development. It's certainly across from McKinley Elementary, McKinley Park, and so certainly it's a development that if we can get one more parcel, would be prime for some kind of development option as far as that goes. So certainly with that, and that's kind of where we're going, and to speak to the public comment, right now the Redevelopment Authority has a request for information out to interested and experienced developers to help with the due diligence as we go forward. We're looking for real world development costs. Certainly, as we know, as I know on the redevelopment side, when I presented to the land bank, to the Planning Commission, the Porches of Central City development, the sticker shock of what current new construction development costs are is sticker shock to a lot. And so certainly we're doing our due diligence to try to gain as much information as we possibly can on what true development costs are in the city of Erie. Certainly it's variable, it's different, and it's very vast. And I can say from conversations I've had with Erie Waterworks in how the infrastructure in different Erie neighborhoods plays a part into those development costs, that varies as well. And so it depends on the age of the infrastructure, the time the original infrastructure was put in, to the point where they can't even give a ballpark on what utility tap-in costs would be unless we identify the true parcels associated with the development. So that's kind of where we're at. We're trying to nail down what homes can be built for, because there is not a lot of information on single-family development within the city of Erie. So that RFI is out. That RFI will be out until probably early September, and is capped, I believe, at 10 respondents at the proposed price for the respondents' information. So that is available.
I do have one more question. Is there different stipulations on if the developer is going to be living in the home versus if they're going to be fixing it up to either resell or move someone else in?
So our development proposals are structured 3 different ways: rental investment, home ownership, and owner occupied. That is up to the board. So every developer is permitted to put in the proposal with the identified end use of that property. I will say, from past experiences, the owner occupied development proposals are very tricky. And certainly, we're looking for developers who are looking to develop for rental investment and home ownership opportunities. Certainly, those are the 2 that would be my recommendation to the board that we work forward. So certainly, owner occupied is great, but there's a lot of due diligence that has to go into an owner occupant putting in a development type proposal. And certainly, those are acceptable, and the board has the ability to select whichever one is put forth in front of them. And we will manage and make sure that they follow through with the development proposal as anybody else would.
As far as like permits
Yes.
and stuff, same
Yes.
thing.
Yeah, that's the purpose of the development fee, and the escrow is really to help offset the administrative cost of staffing from the land bank to monitor those development proposals.
Yeah, I know a lot of people are been told or misled on if you're owner occupant, permits don't need to be pulled or anything like that. It's been done with the house, so.
Yeah, and that's a whole other conversation, but yeah, no, permits definitely have to be pulled. My executive director report I presented is fairly lengthy. A couple things I will just touch on, and I certainly want to commend Gene and Isabella from his staff for attending the PARA conference in early June. I know we didn't have a July meeting, and we didn't really get a chance to talk about that, but I know Sumner and Mr. Anderson were down there in attendance. It was, I believe, a great day on land banking for the Pennsylvania Land Bank Network, but they provided a great presentation on inheritance tax and really all of the intricacies that come into play when it comes to exonerating and getting a clearance from the treasurer's, the Department of Treasury on that inheritance tax. So kudos to Gene and Isabella for that great presentation. Looking through here, just trying to determine what else. I know we got a lot of other things on the agenda that are kind of associated in there. So I will end there, and then if there's anything else that the board sees on that report that they need clarification or different, more information on, please let me know.
I have one question. The most visible project I think we have going right now would have been that house that needs rehabbed up near the Oakwood Cafe and such. How's that going?
We are monitoring the situation. We have issued a notice of default to the developer, and we're trying to work with them to regain compliance on that development proposal. And I will update the board once we know more.
They haven't started, or we haven't been happy with the progress they've made?
Progress is
With the type of
behind,
work, yeah.
and progress is not where we would have liked to see it at this point since closing.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
before we continue forward, and since Mr. Snippert brought it up, I too think it's worthy that we note about the conference that was down in Hershey. Again, not only to our solicitor, Gene Sundberg, and his team, but to the City of Erie Redevelopment Authority and our land bank team, including Mr. Snippert. The people of the City of Erie and all of Erie County should know that we were extremely well represented at that conference, and the continued work that our land bank is doing continues on with committees and being members of the state board, etc. And so we should recognize the whole team for that, and including Mr. Snippert and his team. And I know he recognized our solicitor, Mr. Sundberg. But to all of you, the community can be proud, and we thank you for the work you're doing.
Thank you.
Yes, it was gratifying to be at that convention where there were representatives from any of the land banks in the state, and I got the sense that we were pretty advanced, which was nice to find out, that we had done more than many of them had done. They were still exploring avenues we've already made some progress on. So it was encouraging to see we're doing as well as we're doing.
Thank you.
Can we have a motion to?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
I will make a motion then to accept the full executive director's report with the solicitor and the general updates, comments. Thank you.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Is there any old business?
No old business.
Okay. Moving on to new business. First item is 1012 and 1014 West 19th Street, a Phase 2 environmental site assessment.
All right, so we put out an RFP seeking Phase 2 environmental proposals for the remediation report to move toward demolition of essentially 1014 West 19th Street. 1012 is an adjacent vacant parcel, but we're going to include that because of some barrels that are currently stored on that parcel. So the resolution in front of you today is to approve entering into an agreement with Moody and Associates, a local-based environmental firm, to perform the Phase 2 ESA RAP remediation oversight and final reporting on that site, so that we can move toward ultimately demolition and remediation of that property.
And the remediation total cost is $36,560?
The Phase 2 environmental report total cost is $36,000. That is
That's
not,
just the report.
that's just to get the report, the core
Wow.
sampling, and to develop the remediation scope for the project.
So there's an extensive issue there.
There is a potential. It has a long-standing industrial salvage, long history dating back to the late 1800s.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the next item of new business is Porches of Central City in a partnership with Erie Land Bank and PHARE, whatever that is, funding commitment.
All right, so as we've discussed, and I can share my screen to show, bear with me a second. So what we have is we have a fair, Pennsylvania Housing Finance Agency fair grant that was awarded back in October of 2025 for $200,000 for the development of 2 new homes within the city of Erie. And so over the last 2.5 years, I've been working, and really Infinite Erie has been pulling a lot of the weight toward working on this and pulling together along, Kim Thomas along with Wyatt, to bring this to the point where we are today. And so the request before the board today is to enter into an agreement to share and utilize that funding in partnership with that development to help finalize the capital stack so that we can move on to the next phase of that, which would be to move forward with the design and engineering of the properties.
What is Porches of Central City?
So Porches of Central City is essentially the name we've put to the development of 6 single-family homes at the 22nd and German Street area. So the Central City development is something that the Redevelopment Authority undertook back in the late 2000s going into about 2011, was essentially the acquisition of numerous parcels and bladed structures across the Central City area, which essentially was defined as 21st to 26th French to Parade Street. During that time, we developed 29 single-family homes utilizing PHFA funding, and ultimately we kind of fell short on finalizing development. At one point, the Redevelopment Authority owned 42 vacant lots in that area. Currently, we own 29 vacant parcels in that area. Some of those, and an additional, I believe, 4 Erie Land Bank parcels in that general area. Right now, the proposal is to utilize 4 of the Redevelopment Authority parcels for the development of, bear with me a second while I share my screen.
Is this something that we could use for that 2216 German that, I don't think, did the title ever get cleared on that one?
Say that again?
I think it was 2216 German.
So, yes, so that is a land bank parcel, is essentially 2 houses south of where this development is planned. That is under a development proposal, and we're looking to close hopefully in the next 30 days on that with that developer. So that will be a rehabilitated property, and so essentially kind of puts toward our focus of putting some new housing back into that area. So here is the feasibility study, and I have Kim Thomas on Zoom to answer any questions as well, or add any. So we've done the zoning analysis. These are the 4 parcels that are identified for the development. It's the northwest corner of 22nd and German Street. Those 4 parcels would be replotted into 6 parcels. Our focus of this was to utilize by right zoning. We wanted to not have to seek any zoning variances. We wanted to essentially accommodate the R2 medium density residential zoning in that area. So the plan meets all of that by right zoning. And so we would go through Planning Commission for 2 readings because it is considered a large development, but we would not need to seek any zoning variances for the development. There's a bunch of the zoning stuff. So this is just some aerials. These are the 4 parcels that were identified and the 4 parcels that we utilized for this feasibility study. Some street views of the area. Like I said, if you ever drive through the 22nd and German to Holland, essentially if you turned off French Street heading east on 22nd Street, there's a vast amount of vacant parcels. We own about half of those parcels in that area. Just some more street views of the area.
Has the design of the houses been established, or?
The feasibility study provided some samples. We have not. That would be the next phase of that. And so that's kind of where we're at. We're working with the Redevelopment Authority, the board, to go through that process and approving the design and engineering of those. And the resolution in front of the Erie Land Bank Board is to partner and provide the $200,000 in fair funding for the development of 2 of those properties. So this is essentially the 2 models that have been proposed under the feasibility study, which is a 2-story, 2-bedroom, 2-bath, a 3-bedroom, 2-bath model, and a 1-story, 3-bedroom, 2-bath model, which the single story would be designed as an ADA compliant model from the get-go. The other 2-story model is able to be accessibly designed if needed down the road for the occupants, but it would not be ADA compliant from the onset of the development.
So it's zoned for multifamily, and that would continue?
It's zoned
R2?
for medium density residential,
Okay.
not anything larger than 4 units. But we're
going to put single
seeking
families up on it.
What's that? I apologize.
The idea of this project is to go with single-family
Yes.
homes, yes. And what would the square footage be?
So the 2-story is around 1,287 square feet, and the single story is, I believe, around 1,200 square feet. So this is how the layout would look. All 6 homes would face 22nd Street. All driveways on 22nd Street except for the home on the 22nd and German, on the corner of 22nd and German, which would have its driveway off of German Street. So,
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I have a few questions. Are we, and I assume we are, although we shouldn't assume, of course, but with the amount of funds that we have with the grant through Pennsylvania Housing Finance, are we in compliance with using the funds to do the development plan? Is that part of, are those funds just to build, or are they to prepare the site, develop the site?
so the land bank funds, the $200,000 in fair funds, which was awarded to the Erie Land Bank, is for the subsidy of 2 homes. It's to subsidize the home buyers on the sale end of the property, because we knew in the application phase of it that the appraisal gap in the community between new housing development and sale price, and really the sale price at a low to moderate income level, it was extremely high. So this would subsidize 2 of the properties and allow us to get it down to a 50% AMI. The plan and the grant proposals that have been submitted thus far are for all 6 homes to be layered out at 50% AMI home ownership.
Okay, and you made this presentation in front of the Planning Commission, where
Yes.
questions had come up from
Yes.
different members of the Planning Commission. Were you able to address some of those issues? I know you're probably coming back to us and talking again at the Planning Commission, but how do you feel comfortable that you've been able to mitigate or address some of those issues that were brought up?
Yes, and I believe the current RFI out by the Redevelopment Authority really wraps up those questions from the Planning Commission and will allow us to have the data we need to come back in front of the Planning Commission once we have the design and engineering completed to seek the large-scale development.
And I see and certainly understand that this is a project where you're having other partners, potentially multiple partners in this, in building these modular homes. And so in working with all of them, there's obviously different complexities, but certainly as the conversations were had earlier, anytime there's opportunities to work with local people in regards to all of the different elements of the development, certainly as a taxpayer and somebody committed to this community, and somebody who sits on these boards, I think we owe it to the general public to ensure that anytime we have opportunities to do that, we can.
Right, yeah, so this, we're still early on. We want to continue moving this forward because certainly, you know, we're at the point we need to get kind of moving forward toward that, like I said, the design and engineering phase of it. And we need those bid documents from those engineering firms so that we can put the project out to bid. The plan is once we complete the design and engineering phase of this project, we will have solidified bid documents and plans that we'll be able to RFP out to. We need a local developer contractor to facilitate the placement and the final completion of these 6 homes in the community. Certainly, the modular construction is purchased outside of it, and then the on-site work needs to be bid out. And of course, local developers, you know, are prioritized on any scoring matrix when it comes to an RFP through the Redevelopment Authority.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any further questions on that resolution? I'm pleased with the square footage. I know that's just projected at this point, but that's about the size of the houses that were built back in Erie in our golden age, 1910 to 1930, that are still serving the community. I know in the past, we've undersized some of these developments because of the pressures of cost, but I like here that we're going with a, full-size house.
And Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion and that we can continue to move this forward and as the resolution is presenting today.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, next is a contract renewal of our auditing contract. And the quote is for $10,000 a year. This is really important since our funding comes from the county primarily. And, we subcontract our skilled people services, and I'm very impressed with what meticulous records are maintained of that. We're not subsidizing the housing authority. There's a very clear setup for this, and I think the accountants have done a good job in showing that we're keeping a clear separation here as to costs.
Right, so in front of the board today is to approve a resolution to enter into a one-year contract with the option to renew for up to 5 years with Zolnkowski Axelrod LLC for auditing services for the Erie Land Bank for the 2026 fiscal year at a cost of $10,000. They did provide in their proposal a 5-year staggered plan, and essentially it increases $500 a year for the next 5 years. That is in, I guess, what's the word, what the proposals have been in the past. And so certainly we have been using a different auditing firm the last 2 years and haven't quite been extremely satisfied with the follow-up and support post-audit from that firm. And so we put it out for an RFP again to see if we could get any new proposals. We received one proposal from, like I said, Zolnkowski Axelrod, who is the Redevelopment Authority's auditing firm and has been for the last 2 years. They provide April and her team fantastic support post-audit and will answer questions throughout the year regarding auditing questions and ways to proceed with different journal entries and issues that come up. So they have been a tremendous asset, and we are extremely glad that they put in a proposal, and I am very supportive of putting this forth to the Land Bank Board for approval for our auditing for 2026.
Do you have any questions on this?
I was going to ask if they were local, but I see they're in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, they have offices across the state, as did the previous firm. They all tend to have offices in different cities to facilitate their workload.
I'll motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a second, but I would like to make a comment
Sure.
before we vote. Yeah, just to reiterate the comment that was just made, are there no accounting firms in our local community anymore that are doing the auditing type services? It just seems that each government agency in our community is more and more going to these other firms. And I know Gelcher's was a firm that used to do a lot of this in the past, and I'm sure there's several others, but just seems to me that we've really gotten away from using Erie people, and maybe it's just that in the accounting world, we just don't have these type of services here.
Yeah, I think, certainly no one locally responded to it. And I know, from 2 years ago when we RFP'd between the Land Bank and, of course, the Redevelopment Authority, a lot of local firms are having trouble with staffing capacity. And I think that's the biggest thing. So when it comes to certainly government audits and, the Land Bank is a state audit, so they're just the capacity and the knowledge level that's needed to to complete those accordingly is extremely high.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Next item of new business is state of the field.
Yeah, so I provided for the board Pennsylvania Land Bank Network's kind of infographic on our state of land banking across the state of Pennsylvania. And so for the two board members who attended the PARA convention or conference and the National Land Bank Day, we're growing. We're certainly not to the capacity of our neighboring states when it comes to land banking, but we're growing. Right now, there's 42 land banks statewide. When this was created 2 months ago, there was 39. So we've grown 3 in the last 2 months. But certainly, it just really outlines the measurable economic returns within land banking across the state and what we've done. And I know, from a local perspective, we're approaching a little over $4 million that we've essentially invested back into the Erie community, and so across the state, that sits at $23+ million that's been invested since land banking started in the state of Pennsylvania, which isn't more than about 12 years ago. So, when you look at it, the state provides us zero revenue when it comes to land banking. So we certainly get our share of funding from the county, and then we're left like everybody else to seek out grant funds to facilitate our operations, other than to offset those costs, and certainly a little bit through revenue. But I just provided this to the board just kind of so you can see a snapshot of where we are across the state when it comes to land banking, and have this information as a reference.
It's impressive to me to see that with 40-some land banks, it only averages out to like 1.5 full-time employees across the state. So it's kind of a lean operation, not something you expect from a government or all these governments, but with the limited funding, that's the way it's done.
Yeah, and I will say, and I think that kind of goes to, like I said, the funding's limited, and certainly we continue to advocate. We're working to build and grow this land bank network and turn it into an organization that can help us work towards securing funding from the state, and that's kind of our ultimate goal. And certainly I have to say we're very appreciative of the funding we do have and the cooperation we have with the Erie County Land Bank, and certainly the Erie County government, which provides us the funding that we utilize every year for our land banking activities. So yeah, we're appreciative of that because we are very different from other land banks across the state that aren't as funded as we are. So we certainly appreciate that in Erie.
Okay, next on the agenda is vacant lot and developer proposals. First one is 621 Wallace.
All right, so we received one proposal for a side lot purchase of 621 Wallace from the adjoining property owner at 619 Wallace. So he resides on the north side of the parcel. His proposal is for $1,500. He's no liens, current on water, sewer, garbage, taxes are current. So he meets all the criteria for submitting and approval of a proposal.
Do we have a motion on that proposal?
A motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The next proposal is with regards to 1123 East 11th Street.
Yes. Josh, are we going to need to pull that one? All right, I would ask the board to just table 1123 East 11th Street proposals. We have to work through some municipal liens and hope to have that on the agenda for next month.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to table.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next item on new business is a listing agreement with Pennington Lines.
Yes, and so John Easter is here, who's our realtor with Pennington Lines. He works alongside Patrick Groner, who's the broker for Pennington Lines Real Estate, so he can certainly answer any questions. But if the board remembers, we entered into a listing agreement some point last year, I believe it was in April, but we just kind of need to update it as times change, things change. We've learned some stuff over the last year, so in front of you is a listing agreement that isn't much different from the one that was approved last year. There's been an increase on the minimum commission for structures listed. I think that was about the only change to the original listing agreement, correct? So everything's went well. We've had a couple meetings with them over the last couple weeks and have a plan of attack as they begin to help us kind of push some of these properties out. They're going to work with us to look at some of our stage 2 properties that I discussed under the executive director report and see how we can best try to gain as much public exposure of those properties as possible. So yeah, I am certainly in favor of the listing agreement, and I feel listing with the realtor has greatly increased our exposure to the community and to developers at large.
Yes, and I think he's been quite patient because we had a flurry of activity that was then slowed down while we were straightening out the titles, and he's been patient, so.
Yes, extremely patient,
Yeah.
so we certainly appreciate that.
Are we going to be doing separate listing agreements for each property, or is this
Yes.
going to represent?
Yes.
I also know there's a little confusion about the commissions. Is Erie Land Bank paying the buyer's agent and the seller's agent commission? And then when it comes to, what was that?
John, can you come up to the, and Jean, if you have any comments?
Now, you have a question about the commission?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a flat fee of $2,500
Flat
Or-
fee of 2,500.
or 6%.
Okay, and that's being split, 1250 and 1250?
No, it's being split well, the last one with the 2250, it was 1250 and 1,000. Okay, so this will be split, probably the same thing. It's going to be 1,500 and 1,000.
Okay, so
It'll be split like
1,500 for the
that.
listing agent, 1,000 for the buyer's
Yes,
agent.
and if it's 6%, it'll be 3.5 for the listing agent, 2.5 for the buyer's agent.
Okay. And then as far as the attorney fees, the buyer's picking up all of the attorney fees, correct?
That's my understanding, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the buyer pays
Yep.
most of the cost, yes. Real estate taxes, both in real estate taxes. But the attorney fee, I think we had, didn't we run into something with that attorney fee? As far as the buyer pays for their attorney?
I think I have the buyer paying double transfer tax.
Correct.
And the
Yeah,
attorney fee.
they do pay the double transfer
Transfer
tax.
tax, right.
Yeah, but I think there was discrepancy about that, wasn't there, Gene?
You know, I'm trying to remember that.
It was a little one, but I think it was
Yeah,
because it was
and-
fresh.
Right.
But we're gonna work together to make sure that happens smoothly and that there's no surprises or concerns. And it's gonna be at a significant discount to the buyer.
Right, because there is some fees that the buyers have to pay. As far as the Patriot Act search, there's a couple of searches, domestic lien search, them should be on the buyer, okay? Well, actually, they're on the sellers, that's on the seller's side. Yeah, so the buyer don't have to pay them, okay? But there is some fees that are, and the realtors and the attorneys will get that together,
Yeah.
Right.
before
I would
closing.
just ask if we could put that on the development proposal, maybe so they're aware of those fees up front.
Well, we're gonna, we talked about it, we're gonna use the state contract, and then the developer proposal will be submitted with the state contract, so we keep track of all that.
Okay.
But we want to make sure that the buyers aren't surprised when they come in, that all of a sudden they're, you know, in shell shock. So we'll make sure that all of that is itemized for them and reviewed in advance. Because again, I don't ever want someone to come in and say, hey, look, I thought this was going to be $500 and it's, you know, it's $1,200.
Right, so maybe even just with the proposal, buyer's estimated cost sheet, so they're well aware of what they're
That
paying.
will be done.
And we'll be able to we'll work that together to make sure. Even with a combination deed, if they're buying an adjacent lot and integrating, I'm more than happy to provide them with that cost to do the combination deed, again, at a discounted price.
Those are my only questions.
Do we have
Okay.
a motion for the,
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd be happy to make a motion, but I'm going to make the motion to approve the contract upon and after a final agreement and approval of these questions that have come up, to make sure that the land bank and our solicitor and the real estate firm are all in final agreement on everything that should be included and who's paying for it. Which isn't necessarily my exact motion, but I started talking on, but anyway, so I would make a motion to approve the contract upon final agreement of all parties.
yes, I think we'd like to see what we're going to be showing these sellers as to what costs and buyers as to what costs they're going to incur, because I know that was an issue last year with some of the closings we had.
Yeah, I just think when they submit a development proposal, they can easily see
They
a
know
buyer's
what they're-
cost sheet, and
Yeah.
they know what they're getting themselves into, and then we can vote and move forward. I think it'll just streamline the process a little easier.
Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Right, we're looking to see a cost sheet next month for a lot sale, because that's where this has come up to be an issue here and there.
So and just to clarify with the board, majority of our vacant lots are sold strictly under just a realty transfer with Attorney Sundberg and his team. So we can get a cost sheet there. So do you want lots, or do you want the structured development?
Correct. I
listing?
would say it's not necessary to have a cost sheet on lots, but on the structure, they could be paying, who knows what they could be paying. It starts low, but they obviously raise their bid with the escalation clause. So even if we give them a cost sheet at the time that we accept their proposal, just so when we get, 30 days in, 45 days in, and they get to the closing table, they're not surprised with the number that they need to bring to closing.
Okay, we'll prepare that for the board for next month.
Next on the agenda is a proposed donation of a property located at 629 East 21st Street.
Yeah, so we had a individual reach out to us. Essentially, he had received some notice of violations from the city's Department of Building Standards and Safety, and has come to the realization that the property is too far gone for him to remediate it. He believes it is demolition. He's owned it for 5 years. He certainly wanted to rehabilitate it, but has not had the ability, and as I said, feels that it's essentially too far gone at this point to rehabilitate, and he doesn't have the funds to demolish it. So we have said that we will accept it via donation to the land bank, which then will allow us to utilize our access to demolition funds to demolish and remediate the lot, and present it as a side lot opportunity to neighboring property owners. So
Do we have a picture of the house, or?
I don't have one prepared, but I can get one.
Yeah, this one is in really bad
I was going to
shape.
say, I will tell the board that this is probably a old photo.
picture, Yeah.
I've actually been in this house, it's really bad. You can see the sky from the kitchen.
Ooh, okay. I own a house across the street.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah, the photo's not dated, but I'd make the assumption that this is from probably 2012, 2013.
Yeah. And you haven't made a judgment yet on whether you can save it or,
We have not been in the
Yeah,
property.
yeah.
We essentially accepted the donation form, requested Gene and his team perform a title search on it, and that's why it states, pending clear title. So certainly I would want the motion to say, accept the donation if the title is clear or manageable to clear. So we don't want to acquire a property with a mortgage or 4 mortgages on it.
but you've been in, you say the roof's breached?
Yeah, I think with the right contractor, they possibly can bring it back to life, but that was like a year ago I was in there. I
Yeah.
don't know the condition of it now. But it is an eyesore
Yeah,
on the block.
We'd like to
that
have a
definitely needs-
report on the state of the roof next month, because, they lose their rehab ability pretty quickly when the roof's not working. But,
So I'll motion.
do we have a second?
Can I just add, is the motion with his conditions that it's,
Yes.
can you say that again, Aaron?
That we would accept the property pending clear title or manageable title issues. Oh, God, here, let me, sorry.
Okay, then I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
And we have a tax abatement and municipal lien,
We have no resolutions this month.
and the 2026 judicial tax sale.
All right, so I just wanted, we're getting to that point in the year. It's August. I usually look to put together our plan for 2027 in September to get it circulated to the Erie County Land Bank Board for a funding request for 2027. So I wanted to provide for the board the judicial tax sale list, and then also kind of provide some context to that related to past years. And so, let me share my screen real quick. So I asked the City of Erie's GIS coordinator, who helps us substantially with a lot of our mapping requirements of properties. So I provided for the board the 2026 judicial tax sale list. And so right now, judicial tax sale list is comprised of 18 available properties. As of the August BPRC meeting, 4 of those properties are blighted, but 5 of them are vacant lots, which certainly, we would not entertain unless they were adjacent to one of our already owned parcels, which none of them are. So there's certainly only 13 properties that we would be able to option off the judicial tax sale list. We have not done occupancy investigations on these properties yet, so that is unknown. Certainly the 4 blighted properties have already been designated. They are more than likely vacant, but again, we would do a occupancy investigation on those properties to determine what is actually available for us. Contrary to years past, when we've had 40 properties, was certainly what was available to us in 2025, and it has slowly gone down over those years. And so this year is a pretty slim list. As I put together the work plan list, it'll probably be the acquisition of some of these properties off judicial tax sale list, but then also utilizing some land bank funding for condemnation actions against utilizing and requesting from the redevelopment authority for acquisition of some properties off the blighted property list. So right now what you're seeing is, and it's kind of tough to see, but these are let me get this out of the way so I can zoom in. The little black dots are the judicial tax sale properties that are on the list. Like I said, there's not very many. There's a high concentration around 6th and East Avenue. Haven't looked much into it right now, but what I wanted to share, and it's really not even you know, up to us, but it was alarming. And so I overlaid and had them overlay the 2026 upset tax sale list. And so when I turn this layer on, these are the properties in the city of Erie that are 2 years tax delinquent and are being exposed at the 2026 tax sale. Majority of them are occupied. And so this, I think, just kind of, you know, when I looked at this and you look at the concentrations of those purple parcels on this map, and really when, you know, we look at the properties in the areas in which we really have a lot of vacancy, a lot of deterioration, highly distressed properties, individuals who are having to choose between buying groceries or paying their utilities and ultimately paying their taxes. And so certainly I think this, you know, our power under land banking is to acquire judicial tax sale properties. We do not acquire occupied properties, whether through tax sale or through eminent domain requests through the redevelopment authority. So we do not kick anybody out, but really I think this map illustrates an issue across some of our highly, you know, concentrated neighborhoods that are struggling to make ends meet. And so certainly this list usually diminishes as we get closer to the end of September, but that's not very far away. We're a little over 30 days away from the upset tax sale. So these individuals don't have much time to make payment requests to the Tax Claim Bureau and remediate that. There's 1,240 parcels in the city of Erie on the 2026 upset
Can you
tax sale.
zoom in a little bit for me? I can't see this.
So certainly a high concentration in the 6th to 12th Parade to Wayne area, which certainly the East Bayfront area, which was identified in Erie Refocused back in 2016 is a highly distressed area. We know we have a high scale level of rental within that area, but the biggest one is certainly our Trinity Park. And as we work with our partners at the Sisters of St. Joseph, as they work to steward this area, there are a lot of parcels in this area that, you know, and I only say this to the board because certainly it's a concern. It's a concern for us on the redevelopment authority side as we look to identify funding to help remediate and repair issues, you know, preventative maintenance issues, roofs, plumbing, mechanical, you know, all of those situations that make a property uninhabitable for somebody and ultimately makes them have to choose, do I fix my furnace or do I pay my tax bill? And so certainly on the other side of that, as we look to identify funding. And I just turned on the Erie Land Bank holdings, which are green on this list. You know, so certainly you can see the sprinkling of the land bank parcels across what is considered the Trinity Park neighborhood, which is part of the Sisters of St. Joseph neighborhood network. But as I said, when I started, I'll look to have a report next month for the board as far as a proposed work plan for 2027.
And we don't go after anything on the upset, we wait till it gets to judicial.
That is, we in the past have not. Now I am looking at some properties on the upset tax sale list, but there's a lot of work that has to go into that. I've been talking to Gene and his team as far as time frame to do title searches on properties, but we do not have priority bid at the upset tax sale. We are a bidder on the upset tax sale list. We do start the bidding at the delinquent tax amount, and for properties that we usually are looking at, which are the vacant, abandoned, and deteriorated properties, they're not appealing for us to pay, you know, $20,000, $25,000 for in past due taxes. So that's all I have for that.
Thank you. Anything further? If not, we
I would-
entertain a motion to
Mr.
adjourn.
Chairman,
Yes,
can I
sir.
make one remark? Before we close today, and I made the same remark at the redevelopment authority meeting, I want to acknowledge the passing of Scott Henry, who was the executive director of the redevelopment authority for several years. He was instrumental in the creation of the land bank. He worked extremely hard to get grants to facilitate the study to put together the ordinances to create the City of Erie Land Bank, which was adopted in October of 2016. And so he certainly was passionate about land banking, and he unfortunately passed away on July 4th of this year. So certainly our condolences to his wife Pam, his daughter Samantha, and their family. So he certainly, left a mark on the authority, and especially the land bank, in helping to spearhead and create it. He was very passionate about land banking and felt that the City of Erie would benefit from it, and certainly I would say we have. So thank you.
I'll make a motion for the last thing on the agenda for the 2026 judicial tax sale.
I will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then, Mr. Chairman, I will make a motion to adjourn.
So soon? There's a
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Here, we thought we got a month.